I am lazy. Well, maybe that's the wrong way to say it. I make excuses. I have difficulty finishing tasks. I have ADHD. I'm a procrastinator. If something is inconvenient or inefficient, I struggle to get started. If I don't enjoy something, it's hard for me to stay on task. So maybe it's not that I'm lazy, but I do have issues that lead me to not getting things done when they need to be. Which brings me to another personality trait of mine. I am all or nothing. It can be hard for me to get started, but when I do start working on something and it feels right, and I get into that flow state, I feel like I can't stop. This doesn't just apply to my work ethic though, it applies to how I approach hobbies or learning. I find something that I enjoy and I just throw myself into it 100%. I learn everything that I can, I buy all of the things associated with it. I burn hot and bright with passion for whatever it is, but that can also lead me to burning out. And if I feel like I can't commit myself to something 100%, a lot of the times I'll just abandon it altogether. I'm not perfect, but I've done my best to recognize these flaws that I have. I know what environment that I need in order to cope with these quirks and traits. This room where I create content, where I stream, where I game, where I work, this room is not very big. It gets messy and cluttered, and it's difficult to move light stands and tripods and all the equipment that goes into doing what I do. So my goal with this studio space was to utilize every bit of the room that I could. It was to create a space where everything I want to do feels as easy and effortless as it possibly can. To remove the excuses and streamline my workflow. It may be absolutely overkill, but I suppose that's just how I am. All or nothing. The first problem that I had to tackle was one of space. With the furniture, stands, tripods, and cables, my floor space was very cluttered. Obviously, I can't make the room bigger, so my solution was to go up. I'm using multiple impact vary poles throughout the room. These poles can be set up from floor to ceiling or wall to wall. They stay in place through tension applied with a handle, and I've mounted most things to these poles. I have my RGB floodlights, which are a brand called Onferu. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. They're also completely programmable and assignable using an app on my phone, so that's pretty helpful. My VR sensors are up there and some other stuff as well. My two large studio lights, the Aperture 120D and the 300D, can also mount to the poles. I've tested other things like an arm that can swing up and down with my microphone, but it didn't work as well as it did in my head. Not only does this system allow me to save space on the ground, it also allows me to mount lights in various places very easily. And it also provides some consistency to everything because the clamps stay in one place. And speaking of clamps, most of these things connect to these poles using impact super clamps. With the poles in place, I decided to expand my capabilities with some backdrop paper. Using a 3-roll holder, I'm able to suspend backdrop paper in between two of the poles, and I lower and raise them using a chain system. A backdrop by itself is cool and all, but I wanted to complement it with a surface to take product shots on. I like using my desk to give something that in the environment backdrop, but sometimes I want a clean shot of something. The space is too small to have multiple desks in here, so I decided to get a fold-out table that can be stored against the wall when I'm not using it. Then I went to the hardware store and got these super cheap boards and some vinyl wood floor tiles. I bought a few different styles and colors and cut them to fit those boards. Now I have these fake tabletops that I can switch out depending on the mood that I'm going for. It looks like I have multiple desks and gives me the flexibility to change the look. And when they're not in use, everything just stores against the wall behind the paper backdrops. With the vary poles and these big light stands called C-stands, I have a lot of options on how I want to light things. The lights being mounted on the poles allow me quick and easy directional lighting. When I want more control over the positioning, I turn to those C-stands. These are also made by Impact, and they are heavy, sturdy stands with a lot of flexibility. I've mounted lights such as the Quasar Science light bars, or I'll throw the Aperture lights on them, but I've also mounted cameras to them for overhead shots or my microphone. Just make sure to counterbalance with some sandbags. When I'm not going for that studio look, I like to use the room as a natural setting. I have shelves covering an entire side of the room, and on the shelves, I've put a lot of personal items to decorate the room with my personality. My goal was that if someone joined my stream or watched one of my videos, they'd be able to get a sense of who I am and what I like based off of the items on the shelves. It also serves as a convenient spot to store items that I use frequently, and I've got one area with all of my charging cables and docks. This isn't crucial, I just wanted to show the mini fridge that Rogue sent me. It's kind of empty right now, but if we're being honest, I mostly just put fancy craft beer in there. But you know what is crucial? My closet organization. For a long time, this closet was just full of random stuff in boxes with no sense of organization. Every time I needed something, I'd have to pull out half the stuff, and I finally got off my ass one weekend and ordered this shelf with bins from a hardware store. It's still a work in progress, but I've been finding the best layout for commonly used items. I've got cables organized, camera hardware, audio hardware, organization tools like Velcro ties, physical therapy tools, just a bunch of stuff. I've got various things hanging from the railing in there and bags for equipment stuffed to the side. Motion sensor lights help me see things because apparently a light in the closet wasn't necessary for this apartment complex. This organization has been an absolute game changer for efficiency and productivity. Some of the other small details of this room would be power strips at each outlet to make it easy for me to plug things in. Some organization things like hooks for sweaters and jackets. I've also got an Elgato green screen that folds out when I need to do something like that. And then there's the wall behind my computer. Listen, I get a lot of questions about the tiles that I use. The foam on the outer edge of the wall is just white memory foam off Amazon. And those geometric tiles that I constantly get messages about, those are just decorative tiles that I got off Amazon as well. They're not sound foam, but anything on your walls kind of helps to dampen sound. A tour of the studio would not be complete without talking about the cameras and gear that I use. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. The Canon EOS R used to be my main camera, but these days it just lives here on this stand, and mostly I use it for live streaming. I had upgraded to the Canon EOS R5, and while I still use that a lot for photography, when I'm using it for video, it's either a second camera or for certain purposes. I have a cage for it, and that allows me to mount things like mics or lights or a handle. When I'm traveling, I use this Peak Design travel tripod, which is super light and it folds up really small. This is a beast of a camera, but I found myself having to buy a lot of things to make it kind of a wannabe cinema camera. So instead, I just decided to buy a cinema camera. Recently, my videos have been filmed using the Canon C70, which is a small form factor cinema camera from Canon that also uses their new RF lenses. This camera has inputs for XLR microphones, it has built-in ND filters, has a ton of really helpful video-oriented features like false color, internal LUT monitoring, zebras, multiple audio channels. The list goes on, but most importantly, it does not overheat like my R5 does. It has really simplified my video workflow because I no longer need a bunch of other devices to do what this camera can just do on its own. This camera is going to be sitting on a Manfrotto tripod with fast adjustable legs and an awesome fluid head for smooth camera movement. When I record a video, I usually mount my microphone onto the tripod's arm using a super clamp and a magic arm, and that's to get it close to me, but out of frame. This means that everything I need is on one tripod and it can be moved around easily while maintaining the positioning of everything. These cameras are all absolutely amazing and very overkill for what I do, but they make my job easier and my videos have a high production quality, professional look thanks to them. I have a lot of other little things that I use from time to time depending on the situation and what I want to do. It's a collection of products that I bought to solve a specific problem at some point, and I continue to use them when appropriate. I have a camera bag from Nomadic, which is the Peter McKinnon camera bag. I won't go into detail on what's in it or how I set it up, but if a camera bag tour is something that you're interested in seeing, then let me know in the comments. This room allows me to create in my own way. It's a setup that works for me and how I work. In the end, this is all just gear and electronics, stands and lights. It's overkill, but if that means that I can take an idea and turn it into something that I'm proud of at a moment's notice, then it's worth it to me. The right tool for the job, but also the right environment. And no, I didn't forget about the desk and everything on it, but you'll just have to check out that video next week. Peace.